Howdy, y'all, and welcome to the Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I am Jacob Milham, joined per usual by my co-host, Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how are things going for you this weekend?
I had to go back to work on Thursday, and I'm just really glad it's the weekend again.
Yeah,
I don't know how far I would have made it if I'd had to work a full week.
yeah, it is. It's been nice to have two very shortened work weeks back to back, thanks to the holidays. And now it's like, oh, how am I ever going to go back to a 5-day work week?
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
I said with a very heavy eye roll. But hey, we never
But
know.
but
I might.
I'm serious though. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'm like tomorrow. I don't know, man. It's gonna be a lot.
It is going to be the Mondayest of Mondays, but I am curious if I'm even going to have a Monday because we're out here in Virginia and this weather is set to hit tonight and Monday morning. Folks around here do not know how to handle snow. So I think that'll be interesting if we get any inclement weather, but there's one way to find out. I know that if I'm stuck at the house all day tomorrow, I will be certainly checking out anything new at royalsreview.com. I'm really hoping for some Royals news this week. Jeremy got my hopes up. We'll see if his prediction from the last
I've got a week
podcast came
left.
true. You do. But I want it now. I want the results
I
now. Okay.
I I hear you.
But yeah, it's if there's anything, the Royals Rumblings is going to have it. Max is on top of any breaking news from the Royals. So go check out royalsreview.com, make an account, and join the comment community. Also, if you trust me, if there's any major Royals news, we are going to be on top of it too here at the podcast. Make sure you subscribe, follow, rate the podcast. Just make sure that we can keep getting the good word out to fellow Royals fans and build the community. So, this episode, no transactions to talk about, no real updates on the Kansas City Royals front. It's been a pretty quiet few days. That's kind of to be expected. There have been a handful of MLB moves, but overall the league is still trying to wake up from their New Year's hangover, I guess. This is the 5th, so if you're hungover for 5 days, I do have some questions. You might want to see someone at that point. But alas, here we are. Later on in the episode, Jeremy will be talking about a guy that he would like the Royals to go out and get. He's spoken about on the podcast before, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper. And then plus, I will talk about the international free agent that the Royals are closest linked to ahead of the international signing period. But I do want to start off with some news from Ken Rosenthal over at The Athletic. Hold Rosenthal in high regard over here. Brought his name up several times because, of course, he is one of the most prolific names in the game. Jeremy, can we agree on that at
We
least?
can agree on that for sure.
But Jeremy,
Yeah, I don't want everyone to assume that I think Rosenthal's a chump. I don't think he's a chump. I'm not like everything he says is gospel because he's had some bad misses in my opinion at times. Don't ask me what they are right now because I can't remember off the top of my head. I just know I've seen some articles from him that I've been like, "Whoa, buddy.
mm-hmm.
Whoa."
Like easy there, killer. But Jeremy, we got to sit down and we got to talk about some of the money related news that he broke in his most recent piece. So he's sitting here talking about some of the revenue issues, some of the different alternative sources that some of these teams are having to use to make their bottom line work, question mark. That's always up for debate, how much more money the owners can put into the game. But Jeremy, you got a better understanding, a better eye on this. So what did you take away from this most recent piece?
So I had a couple takeaways. First of all, the highlight, I think, for a lot of people here is going to be that 6 clubs, the Marlins, Cardinals, Padres, Mariners, Brewers, and Twins, have yet to invest a single dollar in a major league free agent. There's slow playing the offseason, and then there's no playing the offseason, and those teams are
Yeah.
no playing it. On the other hand, I think you could argue that there are more teams than that haven't spent money on major league free agents. The Royals are not listed here, but the only major league free agent they've signed is Michael Wacha. Is Michael Wacha a free agent? That was more of a contract extension. He hadn't even officially opted out yet.
Right.
So
Right.
I wouldn't call that a free agent signing.
I wouldn't either.
So, I'm not sure what criteria he's using here, But there's I could argue there's more than 6 teams that haven't spent a single dollar. And this is something we talked about a lot last year too, even as the Royals were the second biggest spenders last offseason. I should check actually, and I will at some point let you just talk and I'll check and see where they place so far this season
Yeah.
in spending, because I think that could be interesting to find out. I think it's still in the top third, certainly, of MLB. And we're sitting here saying they're not doing anything. That's where MLB is at. And so that's kind of my takeaway is, what is MLB doing? He points out also that some people are offering the excuse of the instability of the TV market right now.
Seems fair.
Except the Diamondbacks didn't have a problem going out and spending a whole lot of moolah on Corbin Burns, despite their TV contract being in just as much jeopardy as anyone else's.
Yeah, true.
And then the last big takeaway I had from this was something I hadn't thought about, was that, all these teams complain about the big spenders, the teams that go over the luxury tax threshold. Well, remember, this is a luxury tax threshold. This is when a tax is applied to the spending by the league, not by the government, by the league, to take an additional amount of money for every free agent dollar they spend, or whatever dollars they spend. And then you might ask, what happens to that money? Well, it's not just in the revenue sharing. It's in addition to the revenue sharing, it's distributed to the poorest teams by the commissioner. So I think he has in here somewhere that that's an extra $15 million above the revenue sharing that teams are getting. We already talked about how much revenue sharing teams are getting. The Athletics are getting $70 million. The Royals are getting close to that, if not that much. Then you add another $85 million in revenue sharing is what you're looking at there, basically. And you're spending 120, and you're a Major League Baseball team.
Yeah.
And you're one of the teams that's being more aggressive. That's the spending, lack of spending is a huge problem in MLB. It just is. You can sit here and tell me, the Dodgers overspend, the Mets overspend. And yeah, that's true. But every other team doesn't spend as much as they could. And yeah, the Dodgers will be World Series favorites this year. The Mets won't be, probably, despite all of their spending, because as it turns out, you also have to spend wisely, and the Mets don't always do that. It's just insane to me that we're not looking at this, that everyone keeps looking, and this is true across society as a whole, that people are like, they look at the poor people and they say, why don't you do better, instead of they look in the wrong direction. So when they look at the poor people and they're like, well, you should just spend more wisely, instead of looking at the rich people and saying you should share your money. And in this case, the MLB owners are sharing their money, but the other rich owners aren't being forced to spend it. It's just, everyone's always, I feel like, looking in the wrong direction with this kind of stuff. That was an awful analogy, and I can't believe you let me go on that long with it. But that didn't work right. So ignore everything I just said. The point is that the Mets and the Dodgers spend a lot of money, but other teams could spend more money. The Royals not going to spend $300 million. They would lose. I'll agree that if they spent $300 million on a roster a year, they would lose money on that. That's absolutely, that's reasonable. But they could spend 150, 160 and still make money. That would still be more than half paid for by the money they're getting from the other teams.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're not, that none of the teams are. The Pirates are not on that list, I don't think, but he talks in that article about how the only free agent money they've spent is on bringing Andrew McCutchen back for another year. When I looked at Fangraphs, I saw that they also signed Danny Jansen to a 1-year contract, but they didn't give him any money either.
Yeah.
Like, what? And I know the Pirates aren't good, but they have Paul Skeens. You're just not going to give him anything to work with?
Well, and I think that's so you listed out those 6 clubs that Rosenthal brought up that unequivocally haven't invested any money on a piece that is going to be on their 26-man roster come opening day. And those teams are a wide range of 2025 expectations. Like, I'm not expecting much from the Marlins, but I mean, the Padres, the Mariners, the Brewers, I mean, the Twins, like, those are all teams that are within that top 20 that I think that we spoke about last podcast episode, that you could look at and say, here is a path for them to get back to the postseason. I know some of the loudest fans out there right now are the Seattle Mariners fans because they have one of the best pitching cores in all of baseball. But the fact that they can't invest in a bat, especially after letting Teoscar Hernandez go following the 2023 season and seeing how that has played out, it's not just the Royals that are having this issue with adding free agents, much less impactful free agents. Now, I do know that Royals fans are a little upset about the fact that they haven't been tied to any of the top remaining free agent outfielders. Excuse me. Anthony Santander's market is coming more and more clear, and it looks like the Los Angeles Angels, Toronto Blue Jays, and Detroit Tigers are the three leading teams right now.
Predict Blue Jays.
I think so as well. There was a report out of Houston, of all places, that the Blue Jays had formally offered a contract. So there is legitimate movement there. And I know we've talked about Santander a few times on this podcast, and that is the type of impactful, splashy investment that we would like the Royals to make. Now,
I'm not big on Santander, to be honest.
And
I don't mind if they don't spend on him. They do need to add a bat. I don't care if it's not Santander.
Right. And I think that's people are looking at, okay, we need an outfielder. Who's the top remaining outfielder on the market? From a free agent ranking consensus board, it's Anthony Santander.
I think he's overranked, but
he probably is. I don't think his game fits Kauffman Stadium very good.
He's home runs or nothing, and you put a home run or nothing guy in Kauffman Stadium, you're gonna get a lot more nothing than you did before.
Right. For all the because I remember folks not being up in arms, but being surprised, like, those park factor metrics. I remember people being surprised that Kauffman Stadium was a very generous or offensive friendly park because it's brutal to home runs.
It's singles and doubles.
Right. Singles, doubles, and triples are all are where offenses find value inside Kauffman Stadium. That's not Santander's game. It's not what it is. So you have to adjust your scope a little bit. What player is going to fit where we are playing 81 of our games in 2024? And
to be fair, if the Royals do sign Santander, I'm not going to sit here and say, "Ooh, boo, how dare you."
Yeah.
But, there are other guys that I think can fit this team better or as well. Also, I do need to clarify, I misspoke earlier. The Pittsburgh Pirates did not sign Danny Jansen. That was the lone major league signing of the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah,
They're
how
also
dare you?
yellow on Fangraphs roster resource for some reason. But the Pirates did add reliever Elvis Alvarado, who I've literally never heard of, but he got a major league deal. So great for them, I guess.
Whoop-de-doo, as I would say.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess there's kind of two directions, and I think you're taking it in one direction and I'm taking it in another, of how you can kind of interpret this kind of news that we're getting from this analysis we're getting from Rosenthal. It sounds like what you're saying is the Royals aren't spending, but neither is anyone else, so don't stress about it. And what I'm saying is the Royals aren't spending, but neither is anyone else. Why won't someone spend some money? Improve your roster. Try to win. The whole thing, they did this expanded playoffs. They're like, everyone will try to win now. Nope, they don't care. Yeah. Because they didn't incentivize winning anymore. They made it easier to win, but they didn't make it more profitable for team owners. At least not enough more profitable. Especially if you're like, well, I got it as the third wild card. All of those games are played away, so you don't get any money from that. Well, you get some, but you don't get gate revenue. You don't get, merchandise sales, etc.
Yeah, and there's not like an influx to the local economy with fans traveling and things like that. And you can probably
really, really concerned with the local economy and influxing that.
I'm trying, Jeremy.
They'll tell you they are.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna. Let's not give them that credit, Jacob. Come on.
Okay. What I was trying to get to, Jeremy, is you want to talk about an outfielder whose game might fit Kauffman Stadium a little bit better than Santander. So I want to hear about that unless you have a closing point.
I think I misunderstood what you were asking for when you asked me this question last
Oh
week.
boy.
'Cause this isn't a guy that I was like, please give me this. This was a guy that I was like, I think he'll work, and I think that's who the Royals are going to get.
Okay.
What I heard from you was, who are the Royals? You said the Royals are going to get somebody in the next week. Who do you think they're going to get? And I gave you Taylor Ward or Brett Beatty.
Yeah.
And I still think that those are the two most likely guys for the Royals to add. If it's Brett Beatty, I've said this when we talked about him when he was in the rumors before, he can't be the guy. He can be a guy that they add. He can't be the guy that they add alongside India, who also, I did want to just highlight this one more time since we haven't talked about him in a minute. I think he's a really good fit for the Royals offense. He's not a home run hitter, but I do think he has singles and doubles power.
Yes.
And I think add that with his plate approach, and I think he's going to be a lot of fun for Royals fans
Okay.
in 2025. But yeah, so you asked me to look up a little bit more about Taylor Ward. So I did. He's under contract for 2 more seasons. Well, he's under contract this year for $9.2, I believe, $1 million. This says 1.48, but then on another page it says 9.2. I'm not really sure what is going on there. He's under contract this year. The arbitration's already been done. I'm not sure under what circumstances, but no more negotiation needs to happen. He's arbitration eligible again next year, and then he will be a free agent. Last year was his age 30 season, so he's getting older. You don't necessarily need him for more than a couple of years. And also, I think you're hoping that by the time a couple of years are up, you've got Gavin Cross, you've got Jack Caglione, you've got Blake Mitchell, you've got Carter Jensen. At least some of those guys are up and hitting, and you don't need Taylor Ward to stopgap anymore. Taylor Ward, for the last 4 years in a row now, has a WRC plus over 100. His best season was 2022 when he had a 136 WRC plus. He was fantastic for the Angels that year. 23 home runs, a 10.6% walk rate. Knocked it out, man. He was great. Probably that was really an outlier for him. His highest WRC plus other than that season was actually last season at
Really?
111. So don't necessarily expect a 136 WRC plus from him, but a 111 isn't bad. It's not superstar, but we're looking for a 5-hitter, baby, not a 3-hitter. And we're also, I remind you, attempting to replace, let me look this up real quick. Vamping, an 85 WRC plus.
Oh man,
You
it's
want
so
to
bad.
up that by 26 percentage points.
Hey, I'll take
increased
that.
your outfield production by a quarter of by 26%.
Yeah,
That's
a lot.
of not just 26% of the hitter, but 26% of the average.
Correct.
That is a lot.
It's a lot.
A huge upgrade in your outfield offense, which I can't remember who it was that I saw was writing about the Royals offense. And I think it might've been Lesky who wrote, I can't pick a starting 3 from this offense. They don't have 3 starters. They have Kyle Isbell and a bunch of guys who can play the outfield. So they've got to get an outfielder. I think Taylor Ward would be a good fit in that he's not going to break the bank even at 10 million this year. He won't break the bank. If he tanks, if he's awful for whatever reason, you can cut your losses, non-tender him in the offseason. If everybody's ready and you don't want to pay him, you can trade him again or again, non-tender him. You've got he gives the team a lot of flexibility and he doesn't break the bank. Now, the question is, will the Angels trade him? And I think they will, but especially as they're being rumored, we talked about last time, being rumored to be in on Pete Alonso, some other guys. They don't need everybody that they've got on this team. It might make sense to trade an aging outfielder for the Royals. I haven't looked at the trade values. I probably should have, but I kind of lost track of time. But maybe Carter Jensen for Ward straight up might do it. I don't know. I don't know if that's an overpay or an underpay, and I feel like Royals fans would be big mad if the Royals do that. But I also think it might make sense, especially if you're concerned about Carter Jensen's ability to stick behind the plate, which I've heard some people are, some people aren't. So, but that's kind of where I'm at, is I feel like Taylor Ward is a guy that kind of makes the most sense for this Royals team right now.
Okay.
as far as like his fit, his age, his abilities, and his cost. I mean, obviously, I think, there are better hitters out there that the Royals could afford. But if we're talking about and so when you asked this question, I thought what they might do, what they might actually do, Taylor Ward makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and I think that's what we all need to be, I don't know, sensible, realistic at this time.
Being realistic, Jacob.
I know.
It's the
I
offseason.
know.
This is the time to dream.
It
Give me
is. It
Mike
is.
Trout.
Please don't.
Mike
Please
Trout in
don't.
left field would be so much fun, Jacob. You know it.
It would, but man, that contract. Man, that
Well, he'd eat
contract is
some of it, and we wouldn't have to give
I
up
would hope
anything
so.
for him.
I would
We'd give
hope
up
that they
some
would eat.
we'd give him Anthony Veneziano, and they'd eat half the contract or more.
We don't
And
have Anthony Veneziano,
we
Jeremy.
don't. Well,
No.
whoever give up his twin brother. I don't care.
Give up his twin brother Ralph Veneziano. I don't know, something like that. No, I see what you're saying. And yeah, I am, just to be clear, I'm very much a Mike Trout fan. I think he is a stellar baseball player. Just the health in the contract is not like I wouldn't want my team paying
Tell
his
me
payroll.
that if I threw a party for Mike Trout being traded to the Royals, that you wouldn't show up with your hat on.
I would be that meme of like where I show up with my hat on and I'm standing in the corner with a drink. And I'm just like, all these people don't know how much money he costs. All these people don't know about his re-injury percentage. That would be my role at the party. But you bringing up Trout just really exemplifies the outfield situation that the Angels have right now. And it's not just like their depth, but their top heaviness, I would say. They did go out this offseason and acquire Jorge Soler. Now, I know right now he is primarily a DH only player.
Tell that to Atlanta. They were playing him in right field every day.
Right. That's why I'm saying, because they had Marcell Ozuna. So like if there is another player that the Angels brought in that is a true DH only, cannot take 3 steps in the outfield, then Soler's going to get pushed to the outfield. Now, if they go get Santander, that adds another outfield bat, another corner outfielder. And I'm hoping that Trout is healthy to start the 2025 season. He's your center fielder. So you already
I thought
have.
they were saying they were going to move him out of center field to see if that would get
You know
his
what? I
health in.
hadn't seen that. I would be on board with that plan. I would all that to say Taylor Ward might be one of the league's best fourth outfielders if the Angels added Santander to their payroll. That's what I'm trying to get to. And I like Ward's fit and his ability.
I just did propose the trade on Baseball Trade Simulator of Jensen for Ward, and they say it would be an underpay by the Royals and would be rejected by their model.
Interesting.
You'd have to add something beyond Jensen. They've got Taylor Ward at 15.8 million surplus value, and Jensen at only 8.2.
Oh man!
So you'd have to add in somebody like let's see, maybe Jay Melendez, Drew Beam, Ben Kudrna, Angel Zerpa, David Shields, Steven Zobak, somewhere in that range.
Okay, gotcha. That's certainly something to chew on this offseason. If you're listening out there and you want to take a deep dive into this specific scenario, go for it. Go over to royalsreview.com, make up a fan post. I keep my eye out on that sidebar just to see if there's anything new whenever it pops up, and I love reading through some of them. Not all of them, some of them. If you want to make your argument and make your case, go make it over there on royalsreview.com in the fan posts. All right, Jeremy, something that is, I wouldn't say gets lost in the shuffle, but like not a whole lot of casual baseball fans care about is the international signing period opening up each year.
Because most of the guys who get signed don't ever show up again.
Yeah,
I remember people were making waves because they signed. Was Noelvi Arguelles or whatever?
Yeah,
I don't know how you say his name because he never got to the
him.
big leagues, but they gave him a lot of money in the international signing period.
Exactly. These are prime lottery tickets, man. Even like the top 50 prospects they can be tough. Now, Roki Sasaki, he is of course the top international free agent for good reason.
Royal.
Don't let me get my hopes up, Jeremy.
You know what? I put out 84 wins. They got 86. I'm going to put out Roki Sasaki is going to be a Royal. We'll see what happens.
I wouldn't complain. This is all I'm going to say. And a lot of these, like, if you think the draft is off of potential and toolsy players, that is just compounded in the international free agent class. Like, it's always these
Well,
powerful outfield hitters and these toolsy infielders, and that's all it really is.
a lot of that's because they have handshake agreements with these guys when they're 12 or 13 years old.
Yeah,
Because that's an appropriate time to make a guy sign a life-altering contract. That's
apparently so.
totally, and it's absolutely not against MLB's rules. Oh wait, it is. And yet everyone does it.
Yep. And one guy that the Royals apparently already have a handshake agreement. I'm not going to say anything about the age because I don't know about that process and I'm not going to allude to it at all. One guy that the Royals already have a handshake agreement with is Warren Calcano, a shortstop out of the Dominican Republic.
Would
Now
you
you
say
might
that name for me again, Jacob?
Calcano.
Cacano?
Yes,
Cool.
I believe that's how you
I,
say it.
I don't know. That's a fun name. That's all I'm saying.
It is. That it is. Very much a wide range of opinions on him. Baseball America has them as has Calcano as their number 7 overall prospect in this class. MLB.com has him as the 38th prospect in this class. That is a wide margin. But both outlets do really agree on his fielding work right now. He has a polished glove. Both of them say that he is going to stick at shortstop for the long term. It is that he's just so natural at it. I saw some of his showcase footage, so not game footage, but like him doing, okay, well, backhand this and throw it to first base, that sort of stuff. And yeah, he does look smooth, and I would enjoy seeing him play more at that position. The plus arm is there. He makes a lot of things look easy. Not a power guy. Sorry, that's not his game. He is, if I'm doing my math correctly, he is 17 right now. I wanted to make sure I said that right.
Which is still too young to be signing a life-altering contract, but what can you do?
Well, I mean, listen, I could sign away a life-altering student loan at that age. So
I'm just like, I'm thinking of all the stupid things I signed when I was 20 and was too young and dumb to know better.
Mhm.
Just boggles my mind, man. It boggles my mind that we let kids do this to themselves.
Fair enough. He is going to be
Not just
17.
baseball, just in the world.
He is going to be 17 for the entire 2025 season. So that gives you a bar on, like, okay, this is where he's progressing, things like that. Think about it like this. If the Royals signed a 17-year-old free agent right now and you give him 5 good years of development in the system and everything goes perfectly, then he's ready to hit the show at 22. That's a pretty good return on investment,
In
if you ask me.
2030, when we will all have forgotten all of this.
Yes, precisely. And we will be wondering, who are the Kansas City Royals? I know of the Nashville Royals, but
Oh,
nah.
Jacob, don't put that into the space. Come on now.
Hot button issues, man. Hot button.
We haven't
Going
heard
back,
anything about the stadium in a hot minute. I figured we would be hearing some stuff this off season.
I know, I really thought we would too, but there is
I
nothing.
don't think that that's a bad sign. I just think it's a weird sign.
I think it is as well, for sure, for sure. Back to Calcano real quick. He is a switch hitter.
Ooh, I
From
love me a
my
switch hitter.
from my eye, he looks more fluid on the hitting righty, but he has very different swing mechanics from the right to the left. It's noticeable if you go look up video of him. You'll see what I talk about, the toe tap, but like the procedure of movements in his body for each swing is just a little different. Very much a guy that we talked about we would like to see in Kauffman Stadium. He's a gap to gap power guy, able to stretch singles into doubles. I wouldn't complain if everything goes well and he's a good 23-year-old starter for the Kansas City Royals.
After Bobby Witt has opted out. What are we doing, Jacob?
Well, by then, everyone will know what we've been talking about with the Bobby Witt to third base move, right?
Okay.
I'm joking, everyone. I say this with a smile on my face. I'm kidding. But I highly suggest go read up on the class on Baseball America. MLB.com has a lot of good breakdowns for their top 50. I do hear his, if you know the 2080 scouting grades, here are his grades, Calcaneo's. 50 grade hit tool, 40 grade power, 50 grade run, 50 grade arm, and 55 grade field. So overall, a 45 grade prospect. Nothing to hang your hat on. Nothing to start buying those World Series tickets for
Remember that 50
2030.
is average.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we shall see what happens there. Jeremy, it's time to get back to you because you got one more soapbox
Oh my
to
goodness.
stand on this
So
episode.
we've already talked about how teams are just not spending the money that they have for
Right,
whatever
right.
reason. And we've brushed against sports betting in the past.
Uh-huh.
Just lightly caressed it, and that's the wrong synonym.
Yeah, please don't make that that
But yeah, so one of my hobby horses for my soapbox arguments is, let me just clash a whole bunch of whatever those were. I can't remember the word right now.
I can't either.
Let me just clash all those together. But yeah, I like to talk about how one of the things that frustrates me about the world these days is that businesses aren't allowed to just be profitable. If you're just profitable, you're failing, which
Yeah.
sounds insane.
Does.
But that's where the modern businesses, capitalism, etc. currently goes. You can't just make money. You have to be making more money than you did last year forever. And that's just not physically possible for one thing, and yet somehow that's the system we're in. And so DraftKings, DraftKings and sports betting, they're very profitable, but we got to make more money. How do we make more money than we already do by suckering in addicts? I know. A subscription service for better odds on the bets that you were already likely to win, or I'm not. This part I'm not clear on because it's what I saw. The headline was the bets the bets that are worst for the house or something like that. But then it was like a negative 500 would become a negative 400.
Yeah.
It's very weird. The point is they're offering a $20 a month subscription service, which is way too expensive for a subscription service, excuse you, to get slightly better odds on some kinds of bets.
Yeah.
And people are gonna do that, and the vulnerable among us, the addicts among us, are going to sign up for that and just fork over $20 that they're not even gambling, they're just giving them money.
Correct.
Jacob, gambling is already this, we all know the house always wins in the end, right?
It
We
does.
know this.
Yeah, they do.
And now not only does the house win, but the house charges you for the opportunity to lose your money. I can't, Jake. What are we doing, Jacob?
I try to think how to word this. I have been very much a fence sitter on the sports betting stuff because I like people having the option to do so, but I've also been able to establish like a healthy boundary with it. Like I've never gone into debt with sports gambling. I've never this is just if I have
and that's why the gambling sites don't like you.
Correct. And I really take not a measured approach with my bets, but I will usually think about the bets 2 or 3 times because I look at it as a investment. I know it's a little bit of a weird way to look at it, but
investments are gambling too, so
yeah.
You're gambling that when you put money into GameStop, the stock price is going to go up.
That's true. I am investing in the idea that I think this is going to have this certain outcome according to trends, history, analytics, whatever it may be. Because if you think that MLB teams have the best analytics teams out there, you are sorely mistaken. It is these betting companies, the casinos, that they are looking to win within the margins of the margins. I guess DraftKings is just trying to exploit this margin because this is the explanation that I've seen. So bear with me. So DraftKings Sportsbook Plus costing that $20 a month. In return,
and also the whole just adding plus onto things, I hate that so much.
I do too. So
at least be creative with your names, you jerks.
But the brand,
come on,
the brand. The people who subscribe to that are going to get stepped up boosts. Now, if that sounds familiar, that's because usually whenever you log into the DraftKings app, they have some sort of stepped up promotion. And it's where if you have like this crazy long parlay, like a 4-leg parlay, you get increased odds. The reason why that is because DraftKings is more likely to win. So, Jeremy, you sent me this link last night, and I read through it. I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can get a practical example of
I
this.
love that because I don't know as much as I try to know things about finances and teams. I don't really understand gambling. It wasn't until towards the end of the baseball season that I even understood what the difference between plus 100 and minus 100 bet odds were. Like I knew they were different, but I didn't know why or how or what that meant.
Gotcha.
So,
So I went in and I did one of their stepped up promotions for NFL Sunday. It's the last Sunday in the regular season. And so I placed a bet that's a 4-leg parlay. And I did all favored spreads. And I'm looking at this right now. Give me 1 second. I'm winning 3 out of 4 legs of these individual bets. But since I lose that fourth one, DraftKings is still going to get my money
yeah,
anyways. It
you
would
get
have been
nothing.
you're right, exactly. So that's why they want to push these parlays, is because the return on investment is there. Now, do I have a bigger chance of making money? Yes, that was like a $5 bet. I think with their stepped up, I
Well, you
don't
make
want
more
to
money if you win.
correct if I win,
Not
and
a
the
higher
chances
chance
are
of winning, but more money if you win.
yes, my chances of winning are diminished with each leg that
Correct.
I add
And even
on.
if you're picking a whole bunch of things, which is how I always do my parlays,
Yeah.
if you pick a bunch of things that are favored to happen, like everyone thinks they probably will happen, so they have those negative numbers.
Hmm.
You once you add enough of those, you're more likely to lose one, and then they get to keep all the money.
Correct. Correct. So, and this is something that DraftKings they've been watching the trend. You can go back and look at their filings. This has been something that they've tried to push parlays onto users
Well,
because
absolutely, because I
it
wouldn't
makes
have
them
even
more
known what a
money.
parlay was if they weren't pushing them at me.
Right. And people are relying on they're hoping that they can make their money back with just having better odds. It's not and like I it sounds like it's a big shift, but like if I'm making a $5 parlay like I did today, 500 to 400 isn't that crazy of a boost. It's
That's
not.
I mean that's what? That's divided by 20. It's like a couple bucks more.
Yeah. So I would have to not only make more bets, but I would have to win more bets. And if I want to win more bets, I have to make more bets. And if I make more bets, my chances of losing go up, and the chances of DraftKings making money go even higher. So that's just how it breaks down. And I want to clarify this because I do feel a little. I think you can understand the risks and understand that you are at shitty odds when betting, but I think you could still partake if it's
There's
something that you could do healthily.
there's there's yeah, I so obviously I've already admitted I do some sports betting. Now I've gone on the record that I put my $5 in, got my 150 bonus bucks, got really lucky on how the Royals played last year, and so I was able to keep betting. But once I hit zero on that, I have decided I'm not doing any more gambling. I'm not spending any more money because I have a personality that can be a little bit swayed by these sorts of things.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to go into debt over my poor sports takes because I've had a few. I mean, not many, but a few, right? I mean,
Mhm.
nobody's perfect, and you have to be basically perfect. So, like sports betting, I get it. It seems fun. It seems like a way you can make money. It seems like a reason to care about the games, and so there's good aspects to it. It's kind of like alcohol in that sense of like there's fun things about alcohol. There's nice some people really like the flavor, whatever. But also it can be really harmful to other people. And so I don't have a problem with sports betting in a vacuum, kind of like you're saying. But my problem is in the fact that we don't have safety nets or rail guards to help the people who it will hurt. We just kind of accept that those people are gonna get hurt, and sure, you say, "Oh, here's the phone number, they should call the phone number," but addicts famously don't know when they're in trouble,
Hmm.
or else they would just stop, right? I it's
Yeah.
just an addiction is a disease. It is
Hmm.
not a thing that we can control. Otherwise, we would control it.
Yeah.
So the fact that, and I've seen some horror stories about how some of the gambling apps or sites like work hard to kind of ban or shadow ban the people who actually figure out the odds and win a lot,
Yeah.
just because they want to make money. They don't want to have a fair, fun gambling site. They just want
Nope.
to make money. And they do things to encourage people who are vulnerable to
Hmm.
them to gamble more. That's where I have a problem, is the fact that these companies don't just provide a service. They actively prey on people, and that we have nothing appropriate set up to protect or help those people.
Okay. You know what? I can't disagree with that at all. And it's one of the, I don't want to call it a gray area because it's not really that gray. It's pretty freaking black and white. This is one of those side effects that a lot of people spoke about and were rightfully concerned about when it comes to sports betting legislation. It's still not legal everywhere. I think technically it is legal in most states, but
It's
not
not
all
legal
the
in Georgia, I
states.
can tell you that.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I'm down here in Georgia. I'm like, I can't put a bet on the Chiefs game this weekend. What am I gonna do? And this is me going, I need to not be addicted to this and being hyper aware of it. Like this is when I'm talking about vulnerable people, I'm like, I'm not far from being a person who could really be hurt by this. I have been extremely lucky to be in a position in my life where I think I'm going to be able to resist it. But check up on me in a year and let's see where I'm at.
Oh man, yeah. I will. Let me put that in the calendar real quick, Jeremy. Now I'm a little worried. All that to say, these are these sports books are going to get their money however they want, and apparently now DraftKings thinks people are going to pay for a subscription service,
People will.
and people will. Yeah, all that talking just for that to boil down. They're still going to get
It
their money.
wouldn't any I mean, it absolutely targets, again, this is a thing that targets the weakest people, the people who are weakest to this kind of thing. Because the people with all the money in the world who don't care how much they're losing, are the people who know, who bet smart and have spreadsheets and algorithms, et cetera, to figure this stuff out. They don't need that stuff. It doesn't
Right.
benefit them.
Nope.
If this subscription service was likely to benefit bettors, they wouldn't offer it. It would be bad business. That, plain and simple. I can't say it I think that's the best way to say it.
There
If
you go.
this would actually benefit bettors, they wouldn't offer it because it
Hmm.
makes no business sense to do so.
Yes, exactly. All right, we are going to go ahead and move on today to our Royals reviews. Jeremy, do you have a quick one for us this evening?
I have one. I don't know if it's quick.
You notice how
I
I,
have a
you,
list of them that I've been making to keep
oh yeah,
track of all these things. Let me do The Gray Man this week. I haven't done The Gray Man yet.
oh yeah, the Netflix movie.
Yeah, so that was one I just watched over the holiday break. Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, is that the woman who's in that?
I believe so.
My one sentence review is, I have never seen a movie that was better casted, better acted, better costumed. The costuming in that movie is fantastic. That was so poorly cinematography was so bad.
Really?
Yeah. The
Huh?
fight scene, I'm used to illegible fight scenes in American movies, but these were especially illegible. There were several fight scenes where I just literally had, like, we're talking Transformers 3 level of, I have no idea what's happening right now.
Yeesh.
There was a really long, and I think it's in the trailers, so this isn't spoiling anything. There's a really long fight scene between some covert operative type people and some foreign police with explosives and machine guns, et cetera, tanks. and I couldn't tell who was shooting at whom most of that time. And like this whole time, Ryan Gosling's protagonist is handcuffed to a bench, and they're unable to shoot him. I don't care how good you are, you're handcuffed to a bench, you're gonna get shot. So it was also unbelievable in that way. But man, the acting was fantastic. Gosling, Diarmas, and Evans were just fantastic. Evans plays the villain, or at least one of the villains in the movie, and he is tremendous as the villain. I loved watching him, and his costumes were especially on point in that, like, they told you things about his character, that, like, you knew who he was and what he was about without having to hear him say anything, because you saw how he was dressed and how he was
Yeah.
holding himself.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's a really fun movie. It's just really weird, not great direction. The thing that bothered me the most, I think, were they had these grand swooping drone shots,
Okay.
which first of all start off so far from the action that again you can't see what's going on. But then as the camera swoops in, you're just like, I'm watching a drone shot right now. You're not like, this action is so thrilling. What's gonna happen? You're like, drone. I'm on a drone. It pulls you out of the movie. And it was directed by the Russo brothers, so the Civil War guys. They had
Yeah.
a big rep for that. I don't know. I did thoroughly enjoy the movie. I just don't get a lot of the decisions about how they shot it.
Okay. Okay. I like that. My review this week, I'm trying to think of, you know what? So just like you've talked about Apple TV Plus, number one, still phenomenal service out there if you want to sit down and watch a litany of shows.
Yeah,
Go
I can
subscribe
give you
there.
4 off the top of my head that are
Yeah.
my favorite
Yeah.
shows.
I want to shout out Paramount's streaming
Okay,
service
yeah.
because they have so I don't I never really had a reason to think about like children's shows being available and like options and stuff like that. Paramount has a lot of the older children's shows, like from when I was growing up. They have it available through their streaming service. So
Oh, cool.
it's been fun to get my goddaughter into like Little Bear and Blue's Clues and stuff like that. So I like that about them. I think if you have a Walmart Plus account, it's free.
Yep.
So
The
go,
ad-supported version, I believe.
yeah. So I think it's worth at least giving it a shot, see if they have enough for you. You could also all the Yellowstone like origin stuff is on Paramount as well. They have a
Also
lot
the
of good
home of Star Trek.
That's
I've been
right.
watching Lower Decks season 5 on there.
There you see there's a little bit of something for everyone. So go check out Paramount Network if you have, of course, if you have to spend the money for it. I know another subscription is not something everyone can afford at the
I
drop of a
just
hat.
cancel your DraftKings subscription and go sign up for Paramount Plus. You'll have a much better time.
Exactly. I think that is that's pretty certain. All right, that is going to go ahead and do it for us today on the Royals Rundown podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Jeremy and I, we're going to go sit down and watch some Kansas City Chiefs football as they travel to Denver. So hopefully you're listening.
Some Kansas City Chiefs, not all the Kansas City Chiefs.
Not all of them, some Kansas City Chiefs. Hopefully by the time you're listening to this, the Chiefs have secured a 16-win season, which would just be absolutely crazy. But we're going to go enjoy that. If you want to continue the conversation with us, make sure you can follow us on Blue Sky. You can follow the podcast on Twitter still at Royal Rundown Pod, or you can find both of us on royalsreview.com. I am Jacob Milham. They are Jeremy Greco. Thank you for being here. And until next time, go Royals.
So negative 100 is when you bet and then you lose and then they steal $100 from your bank account.
What?